The Prime Cuts of the Omaha Beef Podcast Season 3 is coming soon. Make sure to like and follow us. And we have all things Omaha Beef football coming your way, led by Beef Football #1 fan, Matt Patton.
Happy New Year, National Arena League Nation. I am Jim Renier, and welcome to another exciting season of Inside the Walls podcast. Alongside me are our two partners of crime, Matt Patton and my buddy from Willing, who got a new title, really a new title, my boy Jeff. How you guys doing this evening?
Good.
Yeah, doing well. I'm excited to be here.
Well, first off, how's the New Year's for both of y'all? Second, no, it's only been 2 days in the new year. Breaking news, nothing really's changed since 2024. So,
yeah, I mean, I've set some goals for myself, and one of those goals is to get a little healthier. I'm doing well on that after 2 days, so we'll see how days 3 through 363 go. But 2 days in, I'm feeling good about things and hopefully continue that momentum.
That's good. I am 2 days late on that. It's a new year. What do they say? New year, new me. And you're like, yeah. I got to get going because I got to get ready. Again, everyone has those same things that change their lives. What about you, Jeff, besides your new title?
No, just kicking into the new season. I announced on my social media the other day that I accepted the job as the director of multimedia for the Wheeling Miners. So definitely awesome. Excited for the new role. Have a little bit more on the stream side of things. I do still going to call games, so that'll be great. But oversee that a little bit more, but just been busy with posting, getting ready for the season, and we got a tryout next week, so that'll be exciting stuff. So I'm glad we're on this half of the year now. That means arena football just around the corner.
Yeah, this time you're not the big hot shot like you were last year with the photos of Coach Rez, and Coach Rez is looking at you, he's like, oh, you don't know what I'm talking about? Anyways, for everyone out there who are just joining us here on Inside the Walls, we are an interactive podcast, and of course, we cover the National Arena League here. We're part of the Inside the Walls network, and to you fans who have reached out, it's like, Jim, we love your shows. Your network's growing. Where can we find you? We're on social media platforms. Go follow us on everything at NWallsPod on X, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. Yes, we're on TikTok. Go figure. And again, we're on Rumble. So we're on all the platforms. And also, starting Saturday, you'll get all the podcast episodes from every show on the network on the official Inside the Walls network. Podcast platform, audio, everything. So you guys who want to listen and go jog or not listen to us visually, download the audio file. That'll be updated on Saturday. So every show in the network will be there. So you just go Inside the Walls Network or visit nwallsnet.com to get all your information from Inside the Walls Network. So for the fans out there, if you want some questions, send them now. This is your show. New year, new stuff. We got new information. We got some juicy new graphics. We're 65 days away from the kickoff of the 2025 season, and we're 67 days away to game day in West Banco Arena on March 10th, 2025 in Wheeling, West Virginia. Myself, Matt, and Jeff will be in attendance. Special guest will be joining us. Let's just say special guest. I'm not going to mention who. Pretty big for podcasts like us. And when people say that, oh, you're just a typical podcast, there's a reason why. I'm just going to say, you want to join. It's going to be pretty cool. We got some things lined up for game day. Ticket giveaways, merch, pregame party, everything. I'll get to throw Jeff into the Ohio River. It's going to be epic. It's going to be awesome.
I didn't sign up for that.
Special guests and more will be joining. That will be like basically how college game day is for college football in Fox and ESPN. We'll do that 2 hours, probably 3 hours before kickoff with the fans. So as we get closer, we'll start getting more details. So that's the first game. And there'll be multiple locations, ladies and gentlemen. We're just not going to Wheeling, and that's it. There are other destinations that will be named at a later date.
Still working out the details.
Still working out the details. So here, how can we start? We had the news broke right before New Year's.
It's a Christmas present.
A Christmas Eve gift of a schedule change. We're not going to break down the schedule like we did before. That was a big production that took a lot of time to do. Commissioner of the league and some of our associates of the National Marine League are like, no, Jim, you did good. We're going to just do the regular show itself. Do your regular show. We'll post an article and whatnot. We'll talk about certain games, certain matchups, but certain things were also done. Some new things that have not been done in the National Arena League before. And I'm going to give that trivia question to Matt. Matt, what was the new thing that's never been done in NAL that's being done in NAL now that was announced on Christmas Eve?
I believe the answer to that question is we are getting divisions within the National Arena League.
Yeah, divisions. And some unique matchups in divisions. We have the National and we have the American. First time in National Arena League history, we will have divisions of 5 teams each. And some intriguing matchups in those divisions. If you look at the schedule, you see some familiar matchups, some multiple games that we'll get into as we progress towards the season. But here are you know what? I'm going to give Jeff this. Jeff, who is in the American division?
So, American division, you have the Beaumont Renegades, Columbus Lions, Wheeling Miners, Carolina Cobras, and the Shreveport Rougarous. Good division here. Definitely going to be a crazy dogfight. We'll mention the playoff format here in a little bit and why it's going to be crazy. But we'll have 5 teams in each division, so definitely going to be some exciting stuff. Everybody in the division does play at least once. Sometimes some teams, the closer teams, they do play 3 times. I will assure you this. Wheeling and Carolina do play 3 times. What a matchup.
Matchups. I'll just say this about that, Jeff. There's nothing happening between those 2 teams. Nothing. Don't need to. I know we're playing them 3 times. They need to build up. Like there doesn't need to be anything. Nothing's going on. Like it's.
Yeah, I've got
connections. Nothing happening between those 2 teams.
I've got my work cut out for me for week 2 trying to build that game up. I mean, it's going to be difficult. I don't know what in the world I'm going to have to do. I mean, I'm really going to have to pull out the marketing hat on and just try to figure it out and, throw some gasoline on the fire that, isn't that big, I don't think.
Well, Matt.
Yes.
National division. Some familiarity between certain teams in that. Some history, too. Who are the 5 organizations in the national division?
Yeah, so the national division, we've got the Amarillo Dusters, the Omaha Beef, the Sioux City Bandits, the Idaho Horsemen, and the Colorado Spartans. Again, another really intriguing division, like Jeff talked about with the American division. Obviously, you've got the legendary long-term rivalry of the Sioux City Bandits and Omaha Beef. The looking forward to the rematch between those two from the championship game last year. Just the epic championship game. That one will take place, in March, I believe. And then just, you got the return of Amarillo to the fold as well with, they have previous experience and rivalries with Sioux City and Omaha from different leagues that they were in before and all that. And, I'm just excited also to see Coach Shaw and the Colorado Spartans and see how much they've improved from year one to year two. Because we talked a lot last year about how Coach Shaw knows how to get those guys ready. And we saw them all season last year really be competitive and really put up a fight. And bringing back a guy like Whitaker obviously is going to be a big thing for that organization. So looking forward to seeing what Colorado has for us this year. And I'm sure that Idaho will also be improved as well. So
scrappy divisions, all of them. One of the divisions, I know this is going to show a little favoritism right here, Matt, so don't jump on me. Maybe because we have two teams in this division that are on the Inside the Walls network, but I digress. This division, the American division, in my opinion, is going to be, I look at it, I think is the toughest division. There's going to be two teams in this division, probably two teams that make it to the postseason. There's going to be teams that are going to be disappointed. Like, the American division is going to be hard. Like, well, I can't say the SEC anymore. It's going to be hard, like the Big Ten, to win. Sorry, SEC, you lost that title after today. But speaking of that, another announcement also was made. The 2025 playoff format of the National Arena League was also announced on Christmas Eve, where it would be a 4-team playoff where the two representatives of each division, 1 and 2, advance to the divisional championship games. The second seed will travel to the 1 seed and vice versa. I know, Ricky. I know. Yeah. But hey, in the championship game, it's between two division winners. The highest seed, the team with the best record, will host both games. So the highest seed gets home field advantage. So it's going to be a little tight. There's going to be some tough matchups. We're going to have some games towards the end of the season with the final couple of weeks that are literally going to be playoff games in the regular season, like how we'd seen at the end of last year between Carolina and Sioux City, how those final 2 weeks was basically the extended of the playoffs to get into the Final Four to see who can play for a championship. But we actually get American championship and the National Division championship. And I actually like the format. It makes the season, regular season, it doesn't dilute the regular season. You have to earn it because the top two teams, it's going to be a challenge, especially in both. Yeah, Ricky, I know both divisions are tough. I know you, Sioux City, and Colorado. That's like I said, so a little favoritism towards the American, but Weathering is amazing in William is. I do agree to that. Yes.
So the thing that I can look at that with a 14 playoff is we can guarantee that there won't be too many teams in the playoffs.
Correct. No bye weeks, nobody sleeping, nobody,
nobody's going to take a month off before they have to play their first playoff game.
Yeah, because that doesn't matter, right?
Yeah.
But no, I think it puts a good emphasis on the season and also, wanting to win your division. I mean, you have to. It's going to come down to battles, and you got to be 1 or 2, and then winning it gets you that home game. And we all know home field advantage in the playoffs is really high up there. I mean, that's just one of those things that everybody fights for. And with one playoff game, you want that home field advantage.
Well, fun fact, and it's still because Omaha lived up to it last year.
Yeah,
the home team has won every single championship game in the National Arena League.
Yeah.
There's only been 2 upsets. and they were in the first rounds of the playoffs, never the championship game. So home field is crucial in the National Arena League.
He brings up a good point because not only could that happen, but you could also see Wheeling and Carolina play 4 times as well. That's definitely a thing as well. So who knows at that point?
Yeah, I don't know though, because according to what I see, Sioux City's only on Omaha's schedule twice.
Oh, okay.
So that would be 3 times if they played in the
championship or the playoffs. Yep.
But correct. what we can promise is we will not have the same matchup in the National Arena League championship game as we had last season.
Right.
Again, that's why you got the American and National. That's why you got divisions.
It's definitely I think too. I think it's obviously it's a geographical thing, but I also think it's it's split up pretty evenly too. Like you don't have, like Ricky mentioned, they're both going to be hard. I think both divisions are really withstanding. I mean, you have your blue bloods, so to speak, and then you have your up and coming teams also on the back half. So it's going to be an exciting year for the National Arena League for sure.
I mean, you look at the one division with the American division there. You've got Wheeling and Columbus, who both went undefeated last season, right? In their respective leagues. We talked a lot last season in the off season leading up to what the 2025 iteration of the National Arena League looks like, on what was it going to be like to have 3 undefeated teams within this league, and now we're going to get at least one division that has 2 out of those 3 undefeated teams, and so it's going to be a dogfight no matter what the whole season. I can't wait. I already love the National Arena League as it is, indoor football, but this is going to be a wild season, and I can't wait for it to get started.
Now, I do have to show some love to the National Division. I know I didn't want to, show all my support for the American. You do have that traditional matchup, again, with the Omaha Beef and Sioux City, the I-29 rivalry. We'll see that twice. Got Colorado, who Coach Shaw's brought back massive weapons, especially the quarterback. And I've said multiple times on this show and other shows, you go as far as your quarterback. Whitaker was that type of player that led them to a very competitive season. Now you get a brand new year.
Yes, and they added the offensive rookie of the year, Newbold, brought him back, had a heck of a season with them last year, and also arena vet and Florida State alum Dent as well at the receiver position.
Greg Dent, yes. And if you look on transactions right before the Christmas Eve, Columbus got a return of a player as well. So you Columbus Flyers fans, Jermon Fortson returns to the Columbus Lions. That is a guy who he's been in the league. I don't know. Coach Rez, you'll know this because I know you're watching. He's been in football indoor for 10 years, 12 years. And he's jumped between 2 teams, Jacksonville, the Sharks, and the Columbus Lions. So he's back with Columbus. So Columbus is going to have a scrappy team, that is for sure. But you look at some of these cute matches. We mentioned this earlier off air, Jeff. The stretch towards the end for Wheeling, you got Carolina 3 times, and at the very, very, very end of the game, you got back-to-back with Columbus home and away. That's going to be, I know this might sound, it could be possibility of that could be like a play-in type of scenario that who wins those 2 games gets into the playoffs, or who gets hosts a home game, of course. And you get the question marks. You got the Ruberu. And you have Beaumont. You have no idea what they can bring to the game. And you have Carolina. Coach Negron is trying to get the team back. They got some good pieces coming in. They're trying to push towards the end. And their schedule starts – you look at Carolina's schedule, a little favorable at the end too, while Wheeling gets back-to-back Columbus. What's your opinion about the matchup that we circled on in preseason? Like, that's going to be a big game, but it's only one game. It may not be that big of an issue. Now you got Columbus back-to-back.
Yeah, I mean, we get them at home, second to the last game of the season, and then we have to go down there and play them in Columbus. So it's definitely going to be one of those things where it could be playoff positioning. It could be, depending on how the seasons finish out, that could be they're both in the playoffs fighting for the 1 seed and then playing each other the following week in the playoffs again. So 3 matchups there as well. The possibilities are endless. I mean, that's with these divisions, possibilities are are just so endless, and it's great for the fans and for us. We're fans too, but we also cover the league. But it's one of those things where it's awesome to see where you're going to see great football there down the stretch, and it's going to be a playoff atmosphere like you mentioned. It's going to be a dogfight both of those games. That quick turnaround there, so we're going to get real comfortable with Columbus.
And one thing I do have to, there's another could possibly be a playing game over in the other division the very last week, and that's Colorado and Omaha.
Yeah.
Like, you look at the end of the year, you got some. I'm looking at matchups at the end of the year, like whoever's fighting for that 2 seed, and it could possibly how like it's in the NFL right now, especially the NFC, which is ridiculous in the NFL, where you have wild card teams that have, you know, bye week caliber records, and they're the 7 seeds in the NFC with like 13-3, 13-4, and you're like, that's usually a 1 seed every other year, and you're a 7 seed. You might see that in the NAL where you might have a team that's 6-2 or 6-1 who's in the bracket, and you have a team that's 5-2, and they're outside looking in, and you're like, 5-2 can make it playoffs in some years. It's going to be a tough challenge, especially depending on what division. But again, you can look at paper and you can, scheme up a bracket. We see all the time in college football. This is what the playoff bracket looks like in July, and you look at half the teams that they predict don't even show up. But that's one thing I love about this format is you're going to get more challenging games towards the end of the year, and you look at those key matchups, especially teams that play each other more than 2 times. Those are, Caroline Williams example, best of 3. You have to win 2 out of 3 to get that tiebreaker. And if you have those, head-to-heads, the 1-on-1s, you got to split. You can't. If you get swept, that's going to hurt you, especially in a 10-game regular season.
Yeah, I mean, and all the games matter. That goes down to the schedule. Every game does matter because it is in a division format. So that's gonna be one of those things where you're gonna be fighting, and you're gonna have to win those divisional games, where it's really gonna make a difference there. So.
Well, we have the play-by-play announcer of another league, San Antonio Gunslingers, Ralph, has a question for us. And Jeff, I want you to answer it because you guys are basically colleagues in the sport. You do the same job.
Yeah, just different ends. Yeah.
It says, what impact, if any, do you gentlemen expect for year 2 rule similarity with the 2 leagues, NIL and IF, of perhaps more successful interleague quarterback movement? Can we see a transition of quarterbacks from one league in the NAL and vice versa?
I think so. With the similar rules, I mean, it's definitely gonna. I think you're gonna see a lot more placement. I mean, if you're down a quarterback, then you can go grab one. But I think right now, especially in the NAL, there's a lot of teams that are locked up a pretty solid number 1 quarterback. Like I would argue this. I think we have the best quarterback play right now than we've ever had in the NAL. It is really team for team. I think we have the best quarterback play right now. I mean, just unbelievable studs playing. But yeah, I think it definitely could be plug and play. I mean, if our season is a little bit shorter than theirs, you could definitely see somebody trying to make a playoff run and pick up one of our quarterbacks, and I think they would flourish right away because everybody is that dual threat in this league now. So.
Yeah, personally, I feel like again, yeah, they could flourish as well, but I think really the main difference would potentially be like the scheme and maybe the terminology that the teams use. If it's different, I don't know. I've never been on a coaching staff or been part of a team where I'm listening to plays being called and stuff like that. So I don't know what the dynamics are like that. Like if it's the same type of play call in one league as the next, I wouldn't be able to answer that question without talking to one of the coaches or something who've been in both leagues. But I would think that might be the only hiccup is somebody going into an IFL team midway or 3/4 through their season and trying to pick up the terminology of that team and maybe fit into the locker room would be the only thing I would see. But yeah, generally as far as talent wise and play style wise, I mean you're gonna easily be able to see those guys transition from one league to the next.
Well, me and Jeff talked to Coach Rez, I've talked to Negro, and I've talked to Coach Gibson, I've talked to Coach Manas, Dave Mogensen, Kevin Guy. I can go on it. I've talked to a lot of coaches, and they basically said it's like there's only so many different concepts you can have in an indoor game. It's just terminology. It's the key difference of it's basically a quarterback knows what's going to happen. They just need to know the terminology, and that's the transition that you have. The one thing I look at both leagues, full respect to the IFL. My organization here, Town, plays in the IFL. Great talented players. There's some good quarterbacks there, great teams. And I like the NAL. The reason why I like the NAL is that I think the NAL has more upper crust quarterback play for the entire league than the IFL because you basically have Verlon Reed, Grant Whitaker, and Grant Russell. Top 3 quarterbacks. I can easily see those 3 quarterbacks play for Jacksonville, Arizona, any team in the IFL as starting quarterbacks. They can get a phone call, they're there. Boom, instantly. They can play. They have that talent. The transition, I think, between the 2 leagues is because it's so similar. Both indoor style rules. There's some rules that are different that, the IFL is stickler on certain rules that the NAL may not be as stickler. Each league has to have their twerks. And for me, if it's for quarterback play, honestly, I want a player to have an opportunity. If he gets at the end of the year, I want him to complete the season in the NAL, have whoever it is. If they get a phone call from my IFL team, I want to see him to get the opportunity because that might be a chance for him to get more film for another leagues, CFL, XFL, and the NFL to get him. Because that's the ultimate goal here is these players, their dreams to play on Sundays in the NFL and more film, more time to get it. And there are a couple players I know in this sport that they don't need to be in the IFL or the NAL. They should be playing in the outdoor game, Canada, USFL, XFL, wherever they want to be called this year in the NFL, one of those leagues. Problem is you just don't. And I know this is kind of a stupid segue or strange segue. It's like how Arizona State yesterday in the college football playoff, they put up a graphic that stunned. Not really, it stunned the announcers. For me, it didn't. Arizona State was the only team in the college football playoff that did not have one player in the ESPN Top 100 recruiting class. They're the only team. Their 2 stars, their quarterback and their running back, were unrated athletes out of high school. 0 stars. That running back probably is a first-round draft pick. You know what league is full of players that have been overlooked by these, On3 rivals, ESPN, all those recruiting systems? The National Arena League and the IFL. Mm-hmm. This league's full of NIA, D1, and D2 talent players and rivals, and then they're like, oh, well, he's not going to look at Ohio State, so we're not going to give him any stars. But you look at Arizona State, they were the only team that had no one under the ESPN 100. And they got robbed of being Texas. I'm saying that. They got robbed of being Texas. That wasn't targeting. Should have been the 15 yards. It would have been put them in the field goal range. It would eliminate Texas and have been done with the SEC. They'll go cry and make it their own league in 2 years. But that's one that I love about the indoor game. You have a lot of players that were overlooked in high school not being a highly recruited player, and they get their opportunity in this game to show their skills. And we saw a couple of them. Look at Turpin for Dallas. No star out of high school, went to IFL, NAL, XFL, and bam. He's a Pro Bowler for special teams in the NFL. So, yeah. And that's correct. And one thing that Coach Rez does know, he knows how to find dudes at that level. He has a couple of them that played at the university in that same city that currently play with the Wheeling Miners. So what's your I know we'll talk about the college football playoff because that finally wrapped up the quarterfinals. I won't bash the SEC anymore. But Jeff, what are your thoughts about, you talk about it. Excuse me. It's Matt's turn. What's your thoughts, Matt, about this? About the play?
I started the damn thing.
I'm going to boot you out of the show.
So, I mean, talking about players transitioning back and forth from the leagues. Yeah. That's what you want me to talk about, right? Okay. Yeah. So, no, I mean, we've seen that in the past with other players. I talked about it a few minutes ago too. Like, I think that these guys will be able to easily transition. I just think the timing is weird. the timing, from when our season ends to where they're at with the IFL, I think it's not quite half or maybe about halfway through the IFL season by the time we're done. And so I just think that gets tricky for some teams, right? Because you're bringing in a guy who's brand new to the organization, who, again, maybe doesn't know the terminology of your organization. He knows the game. He's obviously played a season or whatever. And so I think at the quarterback position specifically, it might be a little bit tougher, but I think that they'll be able to do it. It just might not be something where a guy gets signed on, let's just say a Sunday, and is starting the following Saturday for an IFL team. It might take them a week or two to get in there, get their bearings, and then get started, be able to start with the organization that they sign with. But I mean, we saw last year several guys from the NAL specifically. I know Dylan Petway from the Omaha Beef went up and played with the the Sioux Falls Storm. We saw several guys last season who were on the Omaha Beef organization in 2023 that were playing in the IFL and were thriving. So from different positions. So yeah, I mean, I think that the opportunity is there, and like we talked about this a lot, like that's what it's all about. And if you talk to any of these coaches, like that's what they want. They want their guys to play for them, but then also be able to get other opportunities. So I think that, these guys will have no problem transitioning. It might just be a slight little bit of a learning curve with like terminology and things like that.
And I didn't realize I was commenting on Inside the Walls Network, so I just blasted the comments with the Ohio State versus Penn State would be an awesome national championship, especially for the region of Wheeling, because they're right in smack in the middle of Penn State and Ohio State. Is that a rivalry up there, Jeff? I don't know. Is there?
Yeah. That's a huge Big Ten game. Yeah.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, we'll be back after this short break. When we come back, we'll do New Year's resolutions for the National Arena League. And we'll wrap it up for what we expect will happen. Who will play for the national title, honestly. And that will wrap up the show. Fan questions, send them in if you do. There are coaches in the chat. So if you send a question in, you might get one of the coaches to answer it on things. So we'll be back right after. Yep, and we'll be back, ladies and gentlemen, from Inside the Walls podcast. NAL Game Day kicks off March 10th, West Banco Arena, Colorado. William Miners. You'll have me, Jeff, and Matt. This time I'm throwing Matt into the Ohio River. That's what's going to happen. Well, you're muted, so that's what
I didn't sign up for that either, but it's
it was not in my contract. So
I'll most likely be the dumb idiot though for myself into the river. After I go get some tacos from Sheets first, then you can throw me in the river. So we'll do that first. New Year's resolution. Yes, I know, Matt. We saw that in the chat. You gave that to me, so I put you on the spot. That's what you do on New Year's resolution, minus your personal. This is for New Year's resolution for the NAL.
New Year's resolution for the National Arena League for 2025 is, for me, is that we have every team with the ability to have a professional-looking broadcast for all of their games. Professional-looking and sounding.
Okay. Jeff?
I mean, that was that was gonna be my side of it but no. My resolution is for and this is going to be kind of crazy. I think every team to finish above 500. I think it's possible. I think we could definitely show that either every team or the most teams out of the league that we've had finish above 500.
Every team above 500. What the hell tiebreakers are going to be initialized?
Exactly, mass chaos. It's gonna be fun.
That's not our job to figure out. That's
exactly
like fifth tiebreaker. Who cooks the best freaking hot dog?
Well, we were talking about the playoff format earlier, and I kept thinking to myself, like, okay, the best team amongst the two conference championship games play like hosts, but then like, what if the two teams that go to the championship have the same record? And what if they have the same common opponents? And what
Then
if they
you
have
go-
the same record against the common opponents?
They'll
Yeah.
go- how the tiebreakers usually go, you go head to head, basic common record opponent. Then
Todd will
I
flip a
guar-
coin.
I guarantee if you go, I guarantee you go to like the fifth tiebreaker, it's point differential. Like what happens to your point differential is -2, and you get to travel because the other team's point differential is +1. Like you're like, what the heck?
Yeah. Well,
That's-
I like what Ralph said. Honestly, I like this New Year's resolution too.
Yeah. Every league wants to start
Mhm.
and finish with the actual number.
Yeah.
This is the most teams that the National Arena League is started for the season. Last year was very eventful, but very exciting. How we had that epic game in Omaha for the championship. But yeah, that's a New Year's resolution that not just our league, but every league, and especially in the sports leagues, actually are well run behind scenes and don't showboat that they are well run behind scenes. Every league needs to start what they have, finish what they have, and you move forward. My New Year's resolution is I know this is for the fans out there that watch indoor football and you go, okay, why does this league do this and another league do this? Similar things like graphics, production. The one thing I want to see the National Arena League do this year that sometimes doesn't express, and I think they're starting to work on it some, is have social media take over. There's social media starting to be active. I see it. Someone's been active on Twitter, so that's good. I want to see more activeness on there so more people come to it. So that's my New Year's resolution is get social media popping because we have a good league. We have organizations in the league that do some great work. Williams a good one. Caroline's a good one. Omaha is they're throwing out graphics left and right. I'm like, that's good stuff. More content, more eyes. Content, more eyes brings people, and you work on it. That's my New Year's resolution. So
Solid.
probably know who does it, so I have to talk to him and push him for it. What? Don't look at me. Okay, so any fans? Okay, we got a question here. Why that took forever to pop up, I don't understand. Matt, take this one.
Yeah, so being that that players advance and it's based on stats, how accurate are the stats for the NAL and our teams? Each team required to track the stats. I'm not sure who's required to track the stats. I do know that stats are kept, and I do agree that stats could be better. I know as someone who does post game recaps and stuff on my podcast that it is sometimes difficult to find statistics for the games and to see specifically accurate statistics for players during the games. But that's one thing that I think the league, all leagues, not just the NAL, the IFL, or any other league could improve on is having updated statistics for the players and for the fans. There's a lot of fans that like to see stats as well. And so knowing, as the season goes on, like, who are our statistical leaders in all these different categories and making sure that that's accurate. And I know some of that is based on, like I think they use, like online web-based software and stuff like that, and sometimes things don't get entered correctly, or there's a glitch in the system. But otherwise, I think that would be something that would be very beneficial, especially for the players who are trying to move up, because some of that is stats, but then some of that is also having that film available. And that's why I talk about having quality broadcasts as well, because that does also help the players as far as having film and stuff to send to those other IFL, CFL, and all those kinds of things. So.
Well, we got one of our connections, Coach Rosenthal. The home team is responsible. So, Jeff, that's your job.
We have a guy for that.
No, it should be you.
Oh, why me?
Because Coach Rez has many jobs as a head coach, and what he does for you need more.
Okay, I'll stop breaking down plays and talking about things and try to do stats. Yeah, okay. No, I got a guy for that. We got a guy in place for that. You have to have the plan to do that. We have a guy that does just stats.
Is there an easy button like you see at the commercial? You just press the easy button and stuff happens?
I mean, that's what we try anyways.
Problem is I'll click the easy button and I'll get a freaking someone bill. I'm like, why am I charging I got to pay it now to even what? Like, see, for me, that doesn't I do so much stuff. I charge myself and I'm in debt to myself because I'm doing so much stuff. But wrapping up the show, it's a little short show, ladies and gentlemen. Just want to talk about the divisions and a little fan interaction. Really appreciate it. We are going to be it's the new year. It's the start. We'll be back next week. Inside the Walls Network is popping. We have shows on every single day starting next week because the road to March begins now. Starting next week, we'll start doing breakdowns of organizations. We'll have coaches, we'll have ownerships, we'll have players. We'll be doing pre-games, breaking down. So any type of breaking news that happens in the National Arena League, watch us. We'll probably do a pop-up podcast. It'll be either me and Jeff or me and Matt. More details will come forward about game day. Announcements will come in the future of other locations. So I'm looking forward to some intriguing other matchups and areas that will go. But we forgot to mention one thing before the road to Omaha, you mean? I don't know. Wheeling has a good argument. Columbus has a good argument. We got good organizations that know how to win.
I was just putting up a comment from a fan on the podcast. So,
fan. Is it really a fan, though, Matt?
I mean, this guy is a long-time season ticket holder with the Omaha Beef. So what can I say?
I don't consider him a fan. We don't have fans. We have family. I will do the sound bite, but I don't want copyright strikes on the platform. Put the finger down, Jeff. We ain't doing that. Like, it was hard to keep Matt. No, Matt. No, no, we ain't doing that. Just saying. To wrap up the show, I know I've gotten bashed earlier. College football playoffs wrapping up. NFL playoffs are about next week's going to be popping. We have 2 semifinal games. We have the NFL playoffs going to start getting going. You got the NFC that looks like every team's going to have 13 wins. It's remarkable what's happened in the NFC. And the AFC is just – I looked at recently in the AFC. Oh, my God. Half the AFC stinks. Half the AFC is like 4-12. Like, I wonder why Kansas City is number 1 seed. You go look at who they beat and like, oh, yeah, I wonder why they're that record. But college football playoff ended. Our quarterfinals ended. We're in the Final Four. Texas taking on Ohio State. Ohio State looking pretty good of the 2 games. Here come the Buckeyes. And they will be playing in the Cotton Bowl. And then just today, Notre Dame knocks off Georgia. Thank you, Notre Dame. You got Notre Dame versus Penn State in the Orange Bowl. So those 2 teams can thaw out in Miami for the game next week as well. College football playoff, first 12-team playoff. All the top seeds are gone. They're done. Bye-bye. All the lower seeds advance. Pretty impressive. Besides... not really lower seeds. Yeah, they're lower. They're not top 4, but they're not, 12 11, 10, 9. Some good points. But we got some intriguing matchups in the NFL. The AFC North is going to be decided on Saturday.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, Jeff, you're like my team here. We just don't want to win to hurt our draft stock. While other teams, the Bengals and the Steelers, are playing for postseason positioning. Cincinnati's trying to get in.
Mhm.
Postseason football all next weekend. You gotta love this time of year, especially with the expanded playoff. I don't care what people says. Postseason football is the most exciting sport. Postseason hockey is pretty damn good too, but postseason football is just as good. What are you looking forward to? College football playoff, NFL. What's going on? What do you think, Jeff?
I I mean, I ain't got a dog in any race. So I mean,
Yeah, same here.
But NFL is getting real interesting. Once that gets down to the wire, definitely talk about that a little bit more. But I think college football definitely going to get really interesting. Ohio State looks unstoppable the way they were able to pick apart Oregon last night. Notre Dame looked good today, but I think we'll see a Big Ten national championship. I think we're going to see Penn State and Ohio State. I think Penn State right now has the most complete team over Notre Dame. They can run the ball. They can also throw the ball. A lot of play action. Their playbook is really sneaky. There's a bunch of different things. They throw a bunch of different looks at you. Aller looks amazing. He looks great in the pocket, throwing the ball, and then Singleton running the ball there. Also, just I think, and they play really, really good defense. They're two bookends. I think they're gonna. I think it's a Big Ten national championship.
Matt?
I can't disagree with that, honestly. Penn State has been incredible all season long, and I honestly thought that they were potentially, obviously give or take a loss there to, the best team in the conference of the Big Ten. They didn't play for the championship, but I mean the talent there is undeniable. Very, very good team there, and Ohio State is what we thought they were. Honestly, like I thought going into it that they were going to be a team to look out for in the playoff. And sure enough, they went out and they did their thing. And I really wonder if there will be any kind of consideration of whether or not we want to do this month-long bye week thing, because obviously that didn't work out too well. There was a lot of people complaining about the blowouts in the first round of the playoffs. And then my argument to that was you've never watched the FCS championship playoffs, because every first round game is a blowout in there, and some semifinal games are blowouts there. But it's exciting, it's fun. I'm excited to see it. But as far as the NFL goes, it's going to be wild to see how that whole thing plays out. I mean, we're going to have a 14-win team as a wild card team in the NFC playoffs. It's wild, it's crazy. But I love this time of year. There's nothing like it.
And then that wild card team is going to travel to the Buccaneers most likely.
Yeah, and then give me indoor and arena football, like our guy with arena football statement said. Give me some indoor arena football. I'm ready for it. Let's go.
I think there's going to be some quirkiness that's going to happen this weekend in the National Football League, because there's always weird crap. I have a very sneaking suspicion the Bengals are going to get in, even though they don't deserve. Some weird thing is going to happen. But they are playing in Pittsburgh, and Pittsburgh is a very hard place to play when it's solid as a rock because of the temperatures. They do have a good defense. But I look at the NFC, Detroit and Minnesota. The loser of that gets shafted, because we might see Detroit and Minnesota again in the divisional round of the playoff. Because one would be a 4 seed or a 5 seed, and the other would be a 1. That should be the conference champion. That's one thing I've always said. The NFL needs to work out their playoff format. Like, I don't like how a team like Minnesota or Detroit is going to have 14 wins. They're going to travel to a 10-win Atlanta or a 10-win or a 9-win. No, what's Tampa Bay right now? 9-7. So maybe 10-7 Tampa. Like, come on now. What are we doing here? Like, I digress. But NFL playoffs are later. College football is here. Football everywhere. It's good. FCS football is pretty good. I watched that. Was it South Dakota and North Dakota State the other was it 2 weeks ago, right before Christmas? I didn't realize that place was popping there in Fargo. They really love that team there. They should be paying. They should be in the MAC. Saying right now, North Dakota State needs to move to the MAC. Why? Because MAC Nation. That's where it's at. For that, ladies and gentlemen, that's been episode 138 or 168. Excuse me, 138. Holy crap, we're going 30 episodes behind. 168. We're doing too many episodes. Jeff, any final words, my friend?
No, excited that, we turned the corner to the new year and we're on the cusp of, the season starting. Got a tryout next Friday, so get a little bit of taste of, some action. So I'll definitely be excited for that. And then just kicking off all the shows. Season 2, episode 1 of Through the Wire starts next Wednesday. So that's exciting. Did 30 episodes in the first season. Turned out really, really well for the minors and for us. So definitely exciting to kick off season 2 of Through the Wire.
Matt?
Yeah, I'm just really excited. Season 3 of Prime Cuts of Omaha Beef podcast is coming to you live next Tuesday night at 8 p.m. Central, 9 p.m. Eastern time. So I'm going to have Omaha Beef owner Ricky Burtz on the episode. We're going to talk about all the cool promotions and all the cool stuff that's happening for the 2025 season. And it's just going to be an awesome season. We're looking to hopefully bring some new stuff to the Prime Cuts podcast this season. So hopefully everybody that's watching this, all 60 people or whatever, that they'll all tune in and kind of see some new things this season, potentially even, some live on location episodes this season. So we'll see what happens, but yeah, looking forward to that. And it's amazing to think that we're like 65 days from the start of indoor football. And I just can't wait for it, man. It's going to be awesome.
It's actually sooner, but it's 65 days to the NAL versus NAL. There are some preseason games before that, but we don't care about preseason, right? That's not the mentality?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Like people don't care about the NFL preseason, but they'll watch every single NFL preseason game like it matters. Just saying. Again, actually, I got to do some plugins. Monday night, 7 p.m., The Snake Pit is back. Join myself, Coach Negron, and some interesting new characters for the Carolina Cobras, the new GM, some ownership group. We're going to talk about all things Carolina Cobras. That's Monday at 7 p.m. Also, Willing on Wednesday. This episode next Thursday as we start breaking down each individual team. If you're on Twitter right now on Inside the Walls, vote right now who you want us to break down as the first episode next week for Inside the Walls. That follows on NWalls Pod on X and all social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. We are on TikTok, NWallsNet on TikTok. Follow us on all content, all the shows, and be uploading the audio version on Saturday. Everything will be uploaded for your enjoyment. So if you missed the live broadcast, can't watch it here on any of our social media platforms, download it, help the algorithm, and enjoy up-to-date information of the National Reel League. That's Matt. I am Jim, and that's Jeff. We are the three amigos. No, just kidding. Be well. Happy New Year. So hopefully you and your families had a blessed holiday season. We're 65 days away. When we come back next week, we'll be 7 days closer to the kickoff of the season. So who gets thrown into the Ohio River? We'll find out in 67 days. But no further ado, ladies and gentlemen, that's Matt Patton. That's Jeff. I'm Jim Renier. It's been episode 168 of Inside the Walls podcast. Be well, be safe. We'll see you guys.